Now, Frank and Wilbur and I have been friends since grade school. So when Wilbur called on that cold January afternoon and said he needed help from Frank and I to get an old tractor he bought, we did not hesitate to help our old buddy. So after work, I picked up Frank and we headed over to Wilbur's house. Now when we got to Wilbur's driveway, we noticed a kind of big fella standing at the end of the driveway. Not the size that Wilbur was. Well, when we pulled up, it was Wilbur standing there. So we questioned him about his increased in girth since the other day, and he said, well, since we're going to get that old tractor, I've layered myself. And I said, what? He said, I've got clothes on, layers, so I'll be warm on that ride home on that old tractor. I said, well, that answers that first question, but why is all the tools, wrenches, screwdrivers, sticking out of your coverall pockets? He said, that's just in case something breaks along the way and I can fix it. Well, we headed on out, and the time we got to that old farmhouse, it was pitch dark. Not a star in the sky. Well, Frank and I, we wrapped a chain around the old tractor and drug it out to the barnyard, and Wilbur stood there. He said, boys, I need some help. And I said, help with what? He said, I can't get up on the tractor. I've got every stitch of clothes I own on. You know, he kind of looked like a cross between the Michelin tar man and that little boy on Christmas Story. He could barely move. Well, we hoisted him up on that old tractor seat, and we went down the lane. Now, the only problem that we encountered was, being so dark, the only time that we could see Wilbur on that old tractor seat was when a car came up behind us. But then we could see Wilbur standing there on that seat with his hand up in the air like things were okay. Well, we drove a few more miles down the road and we saw sparks coming from behind us. I said to Frank, I said, wonder what those sparks are. He said, it's probably just an old chain hanging down. He said, let's just go on home. It's cold and I'm sure Wilbur's froze to death. So we just kept driving. Well, we got closer and closer to home, and home we could see the light of town. You know, the street lights were lit up and the homes were lit up, and we got closer and closer to town, and we could see that old tractor just clearly behind us, and clearly Wilbur was not on that tractor seat. So we stopped the truck real quick and we ran around to the back of the truck and the tractor, and there Wilbur laid flat on his back right behind that tractor. Well, as we was helping him up, we said, what happened? And he told us this most amazing story. He said, a few miles back, there was a car followed real close with the sprites on, and I wanted it to back off. Well, my left hand was permanently stuck up in the air because I couldn't move it down because I had all those clothes on. So I used my left knee to steer with, and I took my right hand and I was waving the car back. Well, finally, that old car turned off on a side road, and just when I turned around, we hit the biggest bump I think I'd ever seen. I went straight up in there, kind of hung there for like 5 minutes, and then I dropped like a rock. He said, when I got to the ground, I got my pant leg caught on the drawbar of that old tractor, and you guys drugged me. Well, we helped him up, and we said, unbelievable. And he kept telling us, I said, well, what did you do, Wilbur? I mean, what was going through your mind? He said, well, I just knew I was going to die. So I pulled out a pencil and a piece of paper, and I started writing out my last will and testament. I looked at him and said, your last will and testament? He said, oh yeah, I could see real clear from the sparks from all the tools that was hanging out of my pocket. So he said, after I got that thing written, I had wrote it back up and stuck it back in my pocket. And he said, as we were going by, I noticed an unused Camel cigarette on the side of the road. Well, I thought even though I'd quit smoking years ago, one cigarette ain't going to hurt me now. So I grabbed that cigarette and stuck it in my mouth. Well, I didn't have a match. But luckily, that old 5/8 wrench was hanging there beside me, and the spark off it, I was able to light the cigarette, and I finished smoking it. After I got done smoking that cigarette, I flipped it to one side and crossed my arms and prepared to die. Well, we got Wilbur up, and the backside of his pants was peeled layer by layer, just like you would an onion, right down to his red union suit. Well, Frank said, I'll ride the last few miles home. So Frank got up on the tractor seat. I got in the cab of the old truck, and Wilbur just stood there. And I said, are you getting in the cab with me? And he said, no. I said, well, why? Well, to make a long story short, we went a little farther than I thought. That was not his red underwear we were at, but his red backside. So there we go, cruising through that beautiful Indiana countryside. Frank on that tractor seat, me in the cab of that truck, and Wilbur standing up in the bed of that truck with his full moon shining.